Okay.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Excited to talk to Jen Grant, the CEO of Appify. This is an incredible company. I get calls all the time, Jen, of people saying like, hey, do you have a company that can create an app for me? Do you know a company that can create an app for me? And so I'm so happy to have you on the show today. I want to tell everybody a little bit about Appify. It's where convenience is at your fingertips is how you talk about the company. The app raised $12 million to date and has a 1 million ARR. And the cool thing about Jen is she's led 3 successful billion-dollar IPOs as a CMO. And that is incredibly impressive. And we're going to jump into that. So let's talk about, so one of the things you guys do at Appify is you make it easy to build business apps, right? Yeah. And so I always like to kind of open up the floor so everybody can understand in like a couple sentences, what is an app? And then let's dive into how it's even possible for the technology you have for people to create their own app. And then we'll dive into the technical. So welcome and thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This is super. Yeah. So what Appify does is, if you think back to how business is run, we all have enterprise apps. So whether we have these big monolithic SAP Oracle, or we have 1,000 SaaS apps that are running around our business, it's sort of, you need developers, you have to connect everything, it's siloed, there are all sorts of issues with that. And what Appify does is it sits on top of everything you have, your databases, your customer management system, and you can create apps for whatever you need. So we have folks that in particular are out in the field. So they are dealing with fixing machinery. So they're field service workers, and they have apps that make it very easy for them to say, okay, this is what I need to do. And I get the customer to sign off. And so they've created that app specifically to how their business works. Yeah. We also have customers that, have customer relationships. So they go out and quote, here's what it's going to cost for me to do the work for your company. And then immediately can get emailed. And that's another little app that someone could create. So really, it's anything. And those are a couple of the examples of what people have built so far.
Right. And can a company have multiple apps to kind of help them with their systems and their processes? I mean, that's kind of what I hear you talking about too. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of companies as a business coach post-COVID, and a lot of people on the show who realized when COVID hit, they didn't have the systems, the processes, the checklist, the streamline, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it sounds like you can go into a company and really help them kind of create apps per department, apps per this, apps for that, to help streamline, which is when you get more efficient in that way, you can scale and accelerate the business so much faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why you've probably, taken 3 deals, 3 IPOs, right? Because you understand the ability of scalability. And so talk about that to the business owners who are thinking, okay, how does that actually work? One of the things I find, and it's a little bit surprising at sometimes, is how behind the curve many people are when it comes to technology and technology that can help you really accelerate, scale, and grow your business and bring the best out of your people. And so talk about how a company should be thinking about your product in the silos and the lanes within the company.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would start by giving an analogy. If you remember how hard it was to build a website before Wix or Squarespace, that's effectively the kind of change that we're making. So instead of saying, oh, I need my team to be out in the field and being able to update customer information, that becomes like, oh, how do I do that? Do I have to buy another product? Do I have to get Salesforce or something? And so that is really the kind of analogy to sort of help you think about it. I think we definitely found with the pandemic that, of course, everyone is at home. We're solving way different problems, but there were some specific sort of the agility of the product was really helpful in that some of our customers, they are going on site. They're essential workers. They need new things now that they didn't need before. So immediately we were able to build, in particular, like a Ppe checklist. So if I'm a worker and I have to go on site, I have a checklist that I can not only for the safety of the worker to say, yes, did I remember my gloves and all the things, but also as an audit for the customer. So they know that someone's coming on site and has done all of the appropriate things so that everybody is safe. And that was something this particular customer did overnight. So that's the kind of agility to be able to say, oh, we have a thing, we need to solve a problem, we can create an app.
Well, and what I love about what you're talking about is, and I'm going to put this underneath, because the power of a checklist is key. If if you don't have a blueprint that is so, I'll use an analogy where, if I want to build a house, my blueprint has to be very specific and very crystal clear. So when I give it to a builder and then I show up, the house is built exactly how I want. If you don't tell your people exactly what to do, if you really go back to the fundamentals of why McDonald's is so successful,
right?
A system and a checklist. I mean, I'm going to call it an app. They don't have maybe an app, maybe they do now, for everything, to take the thinking and the decision making out of the fundamental things that need to get done on a day-to-day basis. And so if you don't do it, then everybody does it their own way. So I love that you talked about just the checklist, the Ppe checklist, because that's the root, I think, of everything that you guys do, which I think is so solid. I want to talk a little bit about your background, because it is so impressive. You spent time working for Google. You received the Founders Award at Google, which is a very prestigious award at Google. You have worked to led 3 successful billion-dollar IPOs as a CMO. So there's like so many questions. I wish I had 2 hours to talk to you in there. And I definitely would like to talk to you, offline. But how do you go from a CMO mindset to a CEO mindset while still keeping that, creativity and, just the elements of what a CMO brings versus a CEO?
Yeah.
How do you morph them?
Yeah. And I'll start by saying one of the key skills of a great CMO should always be the key skill of a CEO. And that's the positioning of the company, being able to explain what you do, to tell customer stories, to, make it very crystal clear why someone should be interested in your product. So I have the benefit of coming to the CEO seat, already having done that for many, many years. I think that the shift, there's sort of 2 parts of the shift. One is to stop micromanaging the marketing folk. So always a constant. Yeah. Constantly, stop myself from doing it. Letting people have their own ideas, follow their own creativity. Because honestly, I don't know everything, even in marketing. And so letting them sort of own and get buy-in and love what they're doing and staying out of it. So I have to constantly tell myself to do that. Yeah. And then the second thing is thinking more holistically about the business. I think what's been a real interesting change for me is, as the CMO, I'm constantly fighting for budget. I need headcount, I need resources, I need to do all these things. And now as a CEO, I'm thinking holistically about the business and thinking, well, maybe marketing doesn't need maybe we don't need as much headcount or money. Maybe we need, maybe we're okay the way we are. So it's a very different kind of way of thinking about the business.
But when you talk about that, let's dive into that. When you talk about, are we okay where we are? Do we need to grow? One of the things that you specialize in is really looking at the bigger picture and building brands from the ground up. And when you build from the ground up, there's investment versus expense.
Yes.
There's creating a budget. There's prioritizing what's necessary depending on what that budget is. But building a brand from the ground up, in my opinion, Jen, has never been easier than in today's world, right? Because of all the tools that we have. Requires resilience and consistency, and surrounding yourself with the proper mentors and guides, of course. But talk to me, or talk to the Think community about building brands from the ground up.
Yeah.
And sometimes even with established companies, because of COVID, they had to go back to the root level.
They did. Yeah. Well, I'll start with something you just said, which was consistency. I think one of the things that founders and early stage people often make the mistake of is they think, oh, well, I've been saying this message for so long now. Can't we just change it up?
Right.
No, Don't. If you take a look at Box at the very beginning, we sort of crystallized our message around simple, secure sharing. And if you look at Box messaging today, it's evolved. It's enterprise. It's, they have larger stories, but at the core, it is the same value proposition. It is simple for your users. It's secure for IT. And that kind of consistency of messaging is critically important for building your brand. If you're constantly like, now we're developers and we're a platform, or we're a sharing thing, or we're collaboration, or we're for artists, or we're for moms, or, the changing does not help your brand grow. So I would start with saying that consistency. I think the second thing is, you're right. There's so many different channels to speak about your company, to speak about your brand, to get that message out there. And I think it really is important for the leader of the business to have that time, to make time to say, I need to speak to various business leaders. I need to speak to partnerships. I need to speak to customers. I need to be out there telling the story. And, so many channels: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's almost too many, to be honest, because there's so many things you could be doing. And I would say the third thing topping that is focusing on what are the things that you as a business do very well. When I look back at my career, I look back at, many different business models. So at Box, it was very much about PR and telling the story of the product and the vision. And we had billboards, and, we looked real big. It was all about punching above our weight. And in contrast, at Looker, it was much more about building a demand gen machine. So it was very analytical, as you would expect from a data company, where we were looking at the numbers and the conversion rates and the funnel, and how do we build this business like repeatable machinery, instead of kind of the way we built Box, which was much more around press and brand and top of funnel growth.
Yeah, I love everything that you're talking about. For the person that's listening who, what you're talking about vibrates at such a high frequency, yet it's so simple, it's complicated, right? So to the person who doesn't, fully understand, like, they understand where they are, they understand your product and how it can help, but so a kindergartner could understand the basics of how this company gets from here to utilizing your tools and how it changes their data in just like simple form. I just want to make sure that nothing gets lost in translation to those who I know need your services but may not fully understand the bridge of
Got it. Yeah. So if I was a business that wanted to start with Appify, effectively we call it the Appify Studio, where you can drag and drop different components of what you might want in an app. So if you want a checklist, you have all of the different options for how to create a checklist. If you want to have a workflow where somebody needs to update a customer record and it needs to sync back with your main systems, you can build a simple app that is contained within Appify, or you can connect Appify directly to Salesforce or QuickBooks or any other system of record that you have. That most smaller companies are QuickBooks, Salesforce. And then when you update that customer record, it's updated for everyone. There's a lot of other functionality there.
No, that's good. Let's leave it there. But I love the simplicity of what you just said, because I just wanted to kind of interject that a little bit. Now let's talk about you as the CEO. You started in February of this year, right? Yep. February 2020, February 25th. And then I remember being at doing a workshop for like 30, 40 people on March 12th, I think it was, or March 11th.
Oh my God.
And then the whole world shut down, the next day, March 13th-ish. So you step in as a CEO, a new CEO on February 25th, pandemic hits, you've got, 40 plus people at the company. How did you pivot, adapt, introduce yourself? How did you CEO yourself into a remote, world?
It was crazy. Yeah, I think, our story was we moved into a new office. We were there for 8 days. And then home. And I would say one of the biggest things I learned in that moment is I actually got the team together because I was feeling even earlier than the 13th.
Yeah.
Feeling like this is not safe.
All the news was coming in starting kind of like March 1st-ish.
Yeah.
And it was like, everybody was kind of like, what is going on? Right.
Exactly. Like, what should we do? And I sat down with the team.
Funny, because I remember we were going on spring break with our kids and another family. And we were like, let's not cancel it yet, right? Because we were thinking maybe it'll pass. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and the team actually, a couple of people on the team went to an event the very first week of March. And I remember thinking to myself, like, is this the right thing to do? Is this safe? And so when they got back, and luckily everyone was okay, I sat everyone down, and this was actually on the 12th, and I said, or maybe it was the 11th, I said, you guys, I think we need to go home and we need to work from home. And it was a big learning moment because I was the new CEO. So I thought, are they going to think I'm like a crazy freak, that I'm like totally
or this woman, or Jen's the greatest. Like she stepped in, and everybody go home.
Right? Go home, yeah. and actually, what I saw was there was sort of a visible, like everyone went, oh, okay, good,
yeah.
And it was such a learning moment for me to realize that they were sort of putting on the, for the new CEO, they were like, yeah, we can do it. They were sort of putting on the I'm fine kind of mask. And I had sort of let the air out of the room by saying, yeah, I just don't feel good about that. So then they could feel, I'm nervous too. And I don't, that sounds like a good idea.
Well, kudos to you, because that's leadership, right? Making that decision. And it showcases that a lot of times people will hide their emotions because they're waiting for the leader to set the rhythm.
To set the tone.
To set the tone. So kudos to you on that. What about office space? Like, where do you see yourself? I mean, this too shall pass, right? Well, I mean, vaccines, and, we'll be talking about it. But how has it changed just the future of your business as it comes to working in an office and working remotely? And, I know a lot of people who have been trying to balance being in an office and their families and their this and their, everything else. And now it's kind of like proven, okay, you can actually be a profitable company and people will do what they say they're going to do by working from home. So how has it changed your model moving forward, Jen?
It's definitely changed. When we originally leased this lovely office, which we all miss, but have not seen in a while, we were thinking, okay, and then we need to be in a place where we can grow, and we're going to hire people, and we'll need to, knock out a wall and go bigger. And I think now we've come back to, there's sort of two reactions to the pandemic, to this work from home situation. And one is a number of people are like, actually, I'm way more productive. My desk is lovely. I don't have to commute. I see more of my family. I'm good. I'm good with this situation. And then there's a number of folks that typically the difference is people with families and people who don't have families yet. Right. And those folks are lonely and they miss the interaction with people, and they think, like, I don't mind being home a couple of days, but I would love to get with the team.
Right. A day or two, right.
Like, if we could be in the office, like, yeah, let's go do a deal and let's meet and brainstorm an idea. And so really we're thinking, and I think many companies are thinking this too, a hybrid type approach. We have an office, it's smaller. Not everybody has a desk for sure, but we're coming in for brainstorms, to get together, to have moments where we can interact face to face, but we go home and we get stuff done. And that flexibility, I think it also opened up as we started to hire. We thought, oh my gosh, we don't have to hire.
Walls. Right.
Hire anywhere. We could talk to New Yorkers. We're in Silicon Valley. We could talk to anyone. So that changed a lot of how we were thinking from the hiring perspective too. Yeah,
I love that. I'm hearing that from a lot of companies, like the hybrid. I think, COVID seemed to take away a lot of freedoms. And so I think people want the flexibility and the freedom and the hybrid of options tomorrow. It used to be a millennial thing. I remember doing this interview with this client of mine, and they had, started their business 40, 50 years ago, old school, 1 week vacation after a year, three years, you get a week and a half, And this brilliant millennial came in and they said, I want to be able to work from home. If I feel like it, I want to
Yeah.
I need 6 weeks vacation time. I need this. And they knew that if they hired this person, they were going to have to change the whole foundation of what they offered to everybody else. And they did hire that person. But it was very foreign to them that they didn't take the job, by the way, so they didn't have to change everything. But it was very foreign to them, this new way of thinking, right? But now, and God bless the millennials who push that, that's the norm now, right? It's trust and flex time and remote and have very specific and measurable goals. That's what I want to talk to you about next as a CEO. You know, to me, it's all about, you can have all that, but you need the structure, accountability, the systems, the processes, the apps, the checklist, right? The goals, the metrics, the KPIs. You need all that. And if you have all of that and hold people accountable to that, then people can be adults. So how are you managing and CEOing to that?
Yeah, I think so. I've always been a fan of OKRs. So way back in the day when I was at Google, we have this objectives and key results structure, which is quite simple, which is what makes it useful. And at every company I've been at, I've always pushed for, we should have a goal framework. We should have something. And now, even as small as we are, I pretty immediately, I think it was in April, probably the end of March, said, we're going to have this structure. We're going to think about how do we focus? Because in a smaller company where everyone is kind of like running around going, yeah, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and which is wonderful.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to kind of guardrail it and say, we got to focus on these specific things that are working, and we need to be able to say, we focused on it, we did it, and this is the result. Do we do it again?
Right.
Have that conversation. So that's been how I started instrumenting that kind of, checklist is what are the top things you're working on this quarter? And then we discuss them in the middle of a quarter. We do a quick check-in, like red, yellow, green, how's it going? And sometimes it's like, well, we decided that was not a good idea. And this other thing.
Right, and move on. Right. No, I love all that. I love all that. All right. You are a pleasure to talk to you. Jen, you ready for a quick speed round?
Sure.
All right. Favorite book and why?
Harry Potter. I'm a nerd.
Oh, yeah. All right. I love it. I love it. It's like my favorite TV show right now is Friends. It's the only thing that decompress, right? It's just fun and innocent.
Exactly. I read business books and podcasts, and then I Harry Potter.
I did. All right, good. I love it. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
It's lean back.
Uh-huh.
It's basically, instead of getting all in people's face, ask, tell me more.
Yeah. I love that. Right. Right. So, typically people say lean in, but lean back is more about reflection. Don't micromanage, trust people.
And when you're all hot, like, that's a dumb idea. Okay.
Right.
Good thing to say.
Lean back.
Lean back. Tell me more. I don't understand your position.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I was going to ask you another question, but I'm not, because that one was just so great. I want to end on that. Jen, tell people how they can get a hold of you and learn more about you, your app, your company, etc.
Got it. We're at Appify.com.
Okay, so hold on. I have Appify.digital. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we're at Appify.com, and that has all the information about the company. And if you want to see a demo, if you want to talk to anyone in our company, it's all there. And then obviously I'm on LinkedIn, all of the places. Twitter, I'm at Real Jen Grant on Twitter. I did that before Donald Trump. I'm just saying.
Right. I stay away from politics, but I hear what you're saying. All right, good. Jen, it was a pleasure getting to know you. All the best. Thanks for helping companies be more efficient and all the great things that you've done. Congratulations on all your success, and I wish you continued great success. To all the Think community, if Appify can help you out, reach out to the website, reach out to Jen, and everybody have an awesome day. And thanks for listening. And Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you.